Oh, Kitty's gonna love this situation, this setup.
Hi, friends. You remember Rachel? She's right there, and me, I'm Eric. We're here today hosting Talking with Famous People, asking the provocative question, how do you rate afternoon? It's currently afternoon. What are your thoughts about afternoon? Is it the wrong time of day? Afternoon's no good. It's too little morning and too little night. Is that your position? Or perhaps you're an afternoon fan? Afternoon? Why, nothing good happens before noon or after dusk, you might say. That'd be a true fan of the afternoon.
I'm kind of a fan of the afternoon. I always felt like after lunch I could go home from work. Like I was like, I don't want to go back to work in the afternoon. Like that stinks.
Afternoon is siesta time.
Yeah, it is siesta, isn't it? Or is that just a like a tall tale?
No, it really is. I don't know if it's so much anymore in the modern era, but when I was a kid and visited Mexico, lots of places were closed between the hours of 1 and 4 in the afternoon. Or something like that. So anyway, we're welcome to talk about non-afternoon related subjects. I know this is a less provocative title, perhaps, than some of our other titles. You probably won't be drawn in here to defend Elon Musk or to shit on him in the same fashion as with an earlier video.
But you know what? If you have any afternoon info on Elon Musk, you can talk about it.
That's true. We are fielding all afternoon related topics here today. Whether it's late morning or early evening, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, this title's not working very well.
No, it's not. How is it only one person? Let me see if I got it. I didn't get a notification. Were they all used up?
Maybe.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah. I used up all the notifications.
That's it. Yeah. So spread the word, guys, because we're alive.
If you're one of the two people here, you found out about this live stream without the notification. So congratulations. And you should think to yourself, oh my God, this is so precious and valuable because it's so rare. I'm one of only two people here makes this precious and valuable.
Yeah, and we haven't had anyone say anything in the live chat yet, so you could still be first.
Right. This is like a rare diamond inside of a gold stone.
Yeah.
It's wrapped inside of a platinum rock.
Hey, leaf trimmer.
It's inside of a gauzy bag made entirely of weed.
How pleasantly smelling.
Yeah, well, it's a very valuable contained object.
Aww. Kitty has been spending a lot of time with us lately. She got into it with trouble, and she's been FIing with us a lot. What the heck?
YouTube hates anti-establishment voices from Vouch all the way to Sticks and Hammer 666.
I don't know what that means.
Sticks, Sex, and Hammer. Well, I mean, I agree basically that Scott Steiner, that YouTube has made a business choice to have more control over content, you know. So they feel as though the world has changed its perspective on free expression somewhat, and that without some sort of gatekeeping mechanism, disinformation becomes too widespread and becomes too popularized. There's a lot of danger to that, though. you know. So I agree that YouTube has become somewhat a somewhat leaner platform in terms of the kind of content that it supports, or hosts, I guess you'd say. But I don't agree with your perspective on the absolute primacy of free expression as a value. Free expression as a right and free expression as a value are different things. So it's like, remember, YouTube is not the government. They're a private company that owns this thing that we are all participating in and can say what they want to say about us. Now, the argument can be made that because it's so big and so predominant a forum, that it's functionally a monopolized public space in some regard.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a stretch, really, because there are plenty of other places one can stream where there are probably fewer restrictions. There are alternative things. And the fact that YouTube is the biggest one is somewhat proof that people prefer to have their content a little tamer, I mean,
yeah.
It's like you don't want your porn mixed in with your YouTube.
No.
And I don't really want my hate speech mixed in with my YouTube.
Yeah.
Not that I really want I don't have a RDA of hate speech, but not that I have an RDA of porn. Which is what I was trying to apply there, I guess.
It was not taken that way.
Okay, well, yeah, everybody owns everybody, and therefore there's a big. I am not a left-wing populist.
No, he is definitely not.
Paul Gray, you have obviously paid zero attention to me. If you believe that.
No, he's really not. He's not. So this is our afternoon. I was not expecting Scott Steiner, the world's greatest ring announcer. I was not expecting to be talking about YouTube while on YouTube, but I get where you're coming from. I had some gripes with not Facebook, with YouTube when they first started restricting stuff, but I mean, I don't know. It's
the first level of engagement is complaining. The second level of engagement is blaming. The third level of engagement is addressing. So if you're blaming, you're blaming. No, it doesn't matter if you're right or not. You're still engaged in a lower level of engagement.
We were saying, Winston's mom, like, what do you think about afternoon, and how is your afternoon going? Ours is very pleasant right now. It's a
lovely afternoon.
Yeah,
outside.
lovely.
We really wanted the live stream outside, but we could maybe do this without. But the problem is seeing what you guys are saying. I can't see the live chat. Right?
All right, so
you can look at it on your phone, though, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Rachel could read the live chat on her phone, I guess. I'll just at least show you guys outside and let you say if you think we should go outside or not. This is what outside looks like. Oh, so lovely and glorious. We can't even really see it.
No. What about the other way?
Got more light for you. Now. Okay. This goes, yeah. Wait a second. Yes, it's better to eat that way. Now, if I go like this. Yeah. And I'm all over here. Yeah.
Looks nice. Oh, you can see Kitty. Aw, she wants to be filmed too. It does look like spring. Bajud. You can see the two seats. Perfect. Coming to join you. Yeah, that's great.
The mic out here too, though. I will enjoy the afternoon outside a little bit. This is going to require me to use the long microphone cable, which is right here. I'm none of your labels, Paul Gray. I appreciate your fervent efforts to label me, but I'm best described a correctist. Or what you might call a statesman. I guess that's maybe the best way to box me, is to say a patriotic statesman.
Yeah, you are. You're definitely a patriotic statesman.
If you insist on boxing me, box me as that. Okay, we're live again.
Catherine Farview has said that the tri-type of 478 is and specifically 784 is the least political. What do you agree? I can't. That you're so political.
Well, first of all, may I just say Catherine Farver needs to get an easier to pronounce name.
Yeah.
That it's just not cool to have AUVRE like that. But the thing is, I actually find myself rather apolitical. Like I really feel as though I wish I didn't have to be political, because I don't like politics, really. I find the way that they've devolved into this reciprocal blaming contest is heartbreaking, because I liked living in an American democracy that didn't need me to continue thriving and being healthy.
Yeah, it does. It does absolutely require you to.
It didn't used to.
No.
So
When did that change?
I don't know. I wonder what happens if you put it on this line instead. I guess you'd call that ENTP attention span, huh?
Nothing wrong with that.
You're looking good.
Oh,
I gotta say, we're looking good out here at this table. You're looking like some kind of movie starlet with your dark glasses on and your dark hair.
Thank Thank you very much. You're looking like a dapper Dan yourself.
How much do you guys think that Rachel looks like, I'd say, a Natalie Wood type?
Ooh.
Pre-drowning.
Pre-drowning.
I don't know if you guys can hear me out there. Pre-drowning.
How about Rebel Without a Cause? I'll take it. Thank you. I like Natalie Wood. Oh, do you want me to take my phone out here so we can see what
Yeah, but I have to pee.
Oh.
That's why I'm thinking. Out of the camera shot. Dave Rubin is a rube. Is he a tube of rube? Is that correct about that line? I think I put the line. I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Did I put it back in?
Yeah, the mic needs to be fixed badly, Men Like God says.
Is it put it back?
What was it?
It's the line that's either straight or has a little bend on it, right?
Yeah, Ben.
The other way then.
Okay. How about now?
Is that better?
Scott Steiner says, the fact that people like me have to explain to the lemmings, especially the left in this zeitgeist, why freedom matters is saddening. We shouldn't be having to explain why censoring people is bad.
Well, yeah, but there's some legitimacy to concern about disinformation. And I think that just entirely siding on the side of free expression is being reductive and not giving due weight to that argument.
Cool. Thanks, Men Like Gods. Do you have a favorite god? Like, are you into like mythology and stuff? We've been learning a little bit about mythology through this anime.
Ishtar.
We've been learning about. Oh, wow, I should close my legs.
I've got a new name for a woman's menstrual cycle. It's called Ishtar's absence.
Oh my gosh. It is.
Mm-hmm. I'll explain about Ishtar in a second as soon as I'm done peeing.
That was a good bong rip. I'm so glad that we're taking advantage of this nice day. It's not every day. And you have such a nice day, and the birds are in the tree right now and on the electric line. They look cute. And Pee-Pee is over there. She's being ISFP shy kitty.
Don't forget to introduce Planty.
Oh yeah, and of course Planty. Our marijuana plant. Planty's doing really good. It's a she, right?
Yeah, it's a she.
She's been budding, but we don't really want her to bud right now. If I'm remembering correctly. Let's see what the chat. Hey, Flamel Hot.
So Ishtar was the Babylonian, Mesopotamian goddess of sex. And one of their myths is that she insisted on going to visit the underworld. And she said, if you don't let me in, I'm going to break down the door to the underworld. And I said, fine, let her in. But she has to go through the process to get in. She has to go through a succession of 7 gates, each of which requires her to take off one article of clothing. It's basically a game of strip underworld. It's every time you lose a hand of poker, you have to take off an article of clothing. Except this is every time you go through a gate, you have to take off an article of clothing. Anyway, so she finally gets down to Eshkatar, who's this other lady goddess, and she's furious at having been made to strip down naked. And then Eshkatar, or whatever her name is, traps her there in the underworld. For as long as Ishtar is stuck in the underworld, all sexual activity on Earth stops. So that's why I think it's a good idea to call a woman's period Ishtar's absence.
I think it's a good idea too. I'm going to start doing that.
Sorry, Ishtar left town.
Ishtar left town.
That means
I'm on my period.
Yeah.
There's blood.
There's not going to be any sex till Ishtar gets back. There was something I wanted to respond to. I saw in there. I forget what it was now. I think I should probably smoke a bong rip.
Yeah.
It also feels like a nice afternoon to play a couple of songs on.
Yeah, I agree. I could use a hat.
Okay, so I wanted to respond. Now I remember what I wanted to respond to. You're sort of right about that with the WMDs and stuff and the disinformation, but the point is regarding the WMDs and whether or not they were present in Iraq, there was a robust conversation going on. Now, due to a variety of sort of forcing through certain processes before all the discussions can really play out adequately, and by the way they framed things such that they could convert Colin Powell's credibility into legitimacy long enough to launch this shit. I mean, it's a textbook example of what I always say. It's not what's being said. It's how decisions are being made and how we talk about things that matters. So it's like, yes, it's bad that certain voices are being suppressed. Note that by and large, the voices that are being suppressed aren't voices that are saying things that are true. So it's not like when Alex Jones talks about crisis actors, that's true. If you're crazily in love with your NI conclusions, even in the absence of any other justifications, then you might like to attach yourself to that notion, but to report it as fact is, frankly, irresponsible journalism. Now, granted, these people don't consider themselves journalists, and that's fine, but there are basic journalistic protocols that one follows to establish the legitimacy of what you're trying to say. And then, of course, there's the superior ability, which most people don't have, of dialectic. If you're a fully realized journalist, you're able to take an actually disinterested calculus, and say, here's a presentation of the various factors to consider on this matter. And, you know, there's a certain you be the judge quality to it. Very few people are ever able to present advocacies in that fashion because they're so attached to their particular side of it, you know?
Richard Kuyuk says, Dave Rubin is out of the closet and living in a gay relationship. That's a marker for honesty.
Who is Dave Rubin?
I don't know. Someone said that's what you are. Paul Gray said that's who you are.
Is he like that hip-hop producer?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know who Dave Rubin is.
Neither do I.
Paul Gray, chill out. If you got unfairly timed out, you'll survive.
Yeah.
I can tell. You'll be just fine.
Okay. Scott Steiner says, Frida lied on CNN saying that only journalists can read the DNC and Hildog WikiLeaks.
Okay, well, those are examples of blaming rather than addressing any sort of meaningful frame, addressing something in a meaningful frame of reference. If you want to keep blaming instead of addressing things in a meaningful frame of reference, then you're just going to continue being part of the problem. Because remember, we could talk about actual policy matters, which is what politics is supposed to be about. We could talk about what ought to be done, how we ought to speak differently, how we ought to think differently, what our positions on a given specific actual policy consideration ought to be. Those are all more adult ways to have a conversation about politics than blaming.
Winston's mom says people like Tucker Carlson are not journalists. They are anchor-tainers with opiniontainment. Journalists have to abide by the rules of ethical journalism. Alex Jones sells vitamins and conspiracies.
But even Fox News retracts things once they're well established to be factually false. Even Fox News does that. Like they retracted their piece on the lab release lady who was saying that the Chinese released it, you know, after smart people looked at her work and realized this is garbage. This is not worth reporting on as a serious scientist's work. So, you know, even Fox News did that. Interestingly, of course, it turned out the lady was right. And that's further proof of why it's so important that you don't argue wrong for the right thing. If you're arguing wrong for the right thing, you're definitely part of the problem. Because people like to toss things into a box quickly. Everybody does, it seems like. You know, people are not naturally very comfortable with either withholding judgment or with probabilistic or likelihood-based conclusions. So the correct conclusion to draw about lab release is that it's more likely that it was released by a lab than it's of natural origin, but it's unlikely we'll ever be able to definitively determine it either way. I personally would say it's substantially more likely, but that issue is somewhat of a matter of interpretation, depending on how much you want to weigh the thing. So there's some interpretive matter into the thing that's legitimate. But basically, by and large, we can objectively determine all the evidence and say this is the claim we can sustain. And this is the problem that I have is people say claim, yeah. I go, don't claim me, please. And they go, but it's true. And I say, but you can't sustain it. And they say, you're fooling yourself. Just look at all these clues. Look at the pattern and what it appears to be when I put these pieces next to each other. And I go, oh, fuck. That's not how you think. That's how you NI. Nothing wrong with NI, but that's not, doesn't replace TI.
You are correct, sir. Move around, move around, move around. Move around, move around, move around. You want some FI right now, right now, right now.
It's a little sunny. A little too sunny, really. To be perfectly honest. Rachel's got it worse than me. You want to scoot over a bit here.
Oh, thanks.
Into the shade part more.
That's perfect. Actually,
Was it even worse?
no, it's
Let's
fine.
Scoot over a little more. Get into the shade bit. Scoot back a little bit more. Lift it up. Try it now.
Oh, I see. It's better. Thank you.
Sure. So, we got a couple of, I guess they're cardinals, or are they woodpeckers? Or what are those words? They're the ones with the little thing on top of their head.
I think those are actually cardinals.
Hmm.
A variation.
Yeah, I've been calling them woodpeckers, but I heard you call them cardinals the other day, and I thought, I wonder if they're not woodpeckers, actually.
Well, your dad called them cardinals in Hawaii. And then I was like, I don't know, because I don't see any red. And then the other day, there was one like really close on the line, and I saw the red, and I was like, oh, it is a cardinal. It's just a different kind.
It's just a not red cardinal,
Yeah.
which really would suggest that either the color or the bird is misnamed.
Yes. But it did have red. It's just not all over. It had like red, like right by it. It's like.
But was the red a shade of red that would be properly called cardinal?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Is this cardinal? This red here cardinal?
Yeah.
I'd say so too. I'd say this is cardinal
this
red.
This is cardinal red, definitely.
It's not unlike fire engine red.
No, fire engine red is very close. That is cardinal red.
Let's see what's going on here in the old chatter room.
Okay.
That would be a nice place to play poker.
Speaking of, Vegas is opening up.
Morridge is right that the ends don't justify the means, but I don't think Machiavelli was trying to make that claim. He was saying, given that we don't care about moral claims at all, we should do this. Which is a little bit different than saying, he's basically saying, given that we're all amoral fucks, this is how you should play this game best, rather than what we're doing is righteous. I wish this tree was longer this way.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go inside in a second.
Yeah, but that's okay.
It's just too hot out here.
Yeah. We're in direct sun right now. We'll have the doors open, though, so that the breeze will come in and it'll feel nice.
Yeah. It'll be fine inside. All right, let's move back inside. It'll be a lot easier moving back inside than it was moving outside. Because moving outside basically meant converting everything to long range version. Moving back inside just back inside. Because while short range version doesn't work for outside, long range version does work for inside.
It does. Leaf Trimmer thinks it's funny. Ha ha ha. All right, let's go back inside.
Yeah, it's too hot out there.
It's hot in the sun. It's a low sun in SoCal. How's that low sun?
It's hot. Hot as Billy Idol in 1987.
That's pretty damn hot.
That's hot.
Yeah.
Topping the charts. Nietzsche is greater than Machiavelli.
That's really tough. 'Cause Machiavelli is like lying all the time to get what you need.
I think Nietzsche was making bigger claims than Machiavelli. Therefore, I find Machiavelli less wrong. Probably Machiavelli was a executive, and probably Nietzsche was an analyst.
It's an executive. Which one's
ESTP, ENTJ are your stereotypical executive type executives. And then the ones you wouldn't expect are ISFJ and INFP.
Oh.
And the ones that go physical then metaphysical.
Mm-hmm.
So SETI, TENI, SIFE, and FINE. Rachel's misinformed because Machiavelli teaches us the methods of the rulers. What did Rachel say about it that contradicts that?
I know there's this like test online that you could take and see how Machiavellian you are, and I scored very low on it.
Well, if you're talking about how Machiavellian somebody is, then you're talking about how much they are willing to use the ends to justify the means. But what I'm saying is Machiavelli didn't argue about the issue of whether or not the ends justify the means. He said, assuming they do, this is how you should operate. So, in other words, he wasn't making a claim about the normative frame of reference. He wasn't saying this is right or just. He was just saying, given the way that this is how you should play this game. Kind of like a Sun Tzu Art of War kind of approach, right?
Yeah. I agree with that.
In that regard, I find it less evil than Nietzsche because Nietzsche's making bigger claims. In other words, Machiavelli seems to be accepting the frame, whatever it is, and trying to operate within it as best he can.
Yes.
Using a metaphysical approach within a physical frame of reference. Which you say he's not questioning the frame of reference at all as to whether or not it's moral or not. That's just how shit is, goddammit. It doesn't matter if it's moral or not. Those questions are for philosophers. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about how she really is.
I knew an ISFP who scored very high in the test of Machiavellianism.
Okay, I want to take your 3-minute Machiavellian test. Let's see how Machiavellian.
Yeah, let's see.
I don't self-identify as Machiavellian, but maybe I'm totally wrong about myself. People suffering from incurable diseases should have the option of being painlessly put to death. Do anyone to trust a person and another completely risking for trouble? Honesty is not the best policy in those cases. I do what I have to in order to get important people on my side. No. Sometimes I find myself admiring a really clever scam. Yeah. I tell people what they want to hear in order to endear them to me. No. I won't do that. I won't tell you the type that you want to be just to make you happy. A lot of people are lazy and don't work hard unless they have to.
That's a tough question.
It's
How do you narrow that down?
It's like, and the problem I have with this question is it assumes a frame of reference in which people are being evaluated by their productivity.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So I'm gonna disagree with this. I keep track of sensitive information that can be used to hurt others at a later date. No. I knew somebody who did that at a great extent. I was just like, what in the world? You're trying to collect all this. There's nothing to keep on me, dude. There's nothing secret. To get ahead in life, one has to cut corners here and there. A little bit. Not sure that's true, actually. I think I actually disagree with that. I think to get ahead in life, one has to not cut corners. Lying is not as bad as it's made out to be. Totally disagree. We all do it all the time. Bullshit. Not Machiavellian. Your answer suggests you are not Machiavellian. You're not deceptive or manipulative. You do not believe that the ends justify the means, and you do not sacrifice morality for the sake of effectiveness. Moreover, you generally welcome emotional attachments, and you are not exclusively focused on your ambition or interests.
Yeah. So, like, I was really... this wasn't the test that I took, but I scored really low on it. And when my friend took the test and he scored really high on it, I was like, oh, I know not to trust you. Like,
right. No, I'm not Machiavellian for sure. Well, not all metaphysical frames are magical thinking frames. So, in other words, what I'm saying is a normative frame is a metaphysical frame, but not a magical thinking frame unless it's a positive moral frame. I'm making the distinction very clearly. I'm not mixing the two words together. No, that's not correct. What I'm saying about the metaphysical frame is the executive type that is what I was describing Machiavelli to be, is accepting the frame of reference. This is just how shit is. We don't need to worry about whether it's right or wrong, right?
that is it.
The metaphysical frame of reference does include some magical thinking frames of reference, but magical thinking frame of reference is not synonymous with metaphysical thinking frame of reference, because a metaphysical frame of reference is just saying, what's the map? Whether the map requires leaps of faith is determined on whether it's magical thinking or not. Yeah, I know. It was worth responding to, so I'm glad you probably fixed
it. You know, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with being cunning, Broccoli Todd, but
there's one kind of cunning I think that's perfectly okay, and it's the cunning strategy that good cunning people use, which is always give them enough rope. That's the kind of cunning that people get caught. Bad people get caught by.
It's true.
Just, give people a lot of sort of neutral responses and let them display who they are, and bad people will fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And bad people may assume that it doesn't matter because they've got you with something. They don't got me with shit. So they got no power over me. Narcissists run from me like I'm the plague.
LOL, Broccoli Todd. Do you mind if you click on what Winston's mom linked? Astro.
Not at all. I just want to say, Dave Sanderson says here, there is a debate between a Marxist and a vegan. This is what I'm looking for. There's a debate between a Marxist and a vegan. That's like saying there's a debate between people who say humans aren't human and people who say humans aren't animals.
Yeah.
It's like, Actually, you're both wrong.
Yeah. Be like when the conversation like goes past both people and they just keep on talking about like what they care about, which Marxism says no, all people same.
Marx versus vegans. People aren't people. People aren't animals.
Yeah.
I see. So you got 2 wrong affirmations or negations not against each other at all, or oh, if you didn't hear it the other time I asked, I got a riddle I'm going to share with everybody. If you didn't catch it in the previous live stream, this is a repeat, a second time I've given out this riddle, but in case you didn't catch it, what is both a dwelling and a cheese? What is both a dwelling and a cheese? If you've heard the riddle before and know the answer because you've heard it before, please don't say the answer. But if you've not heard the riddle before and would like to shout out the answer there in the chat, please go ahead and do so.
I don't know.
I think humans are animals in the sense that animals are biological creatures that aren't plants. Good job, Stephanie.
Oh my God, I literally was there when we made that joke up.
You were the first hearer of that riddle. That's true.
Fucking dumbass.
You've heard it twice before, but I'm used to you not remembering things that we've talked about. It's fine. I'm very accustomed to that. Good job, Stephanie Lou. You win.
Yeah, you do.
You get 10 points and a blue ribbon score of hooray you for winning the riddle.
Yeah.
The answer is cottage. Both a dwelling and a cheese.
Yep.
Two ships passing in the night, huh, David Sanderson?
Yeah, that sounds like
that's what happens.
It is.
Well, it's exactly what happens when people don't explicitly talk about framework, aren't aware that they're arguing under a framework, and then just argue past each other under their respective frameworks. That's why you got to actually address framework. Sounds like a nightmare.
People who like Gouda was what I was thinking of. I was like, is Gouda house in another language? Rachel.
Yurt?
Yurt.
Yurt's not a cheese. Swiss chalet. If it was called a Swiss rather than a Swiss chalet, then that would work. But it's not called a Swiss. It's called a Swiss chalet.
Yeah,
whereas a cottage is just called a cottage. Asiago. Not a dwelling. It is a cheese, though.
Yeah.
Gouda does sound a little bit like it could be a cute little Dutch.
Yeah, somehow.
Dutch house.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a Gouda. Come on in and sit in the hearth. Sit by the hearth and enjoy the fire.
You're doing so good. My goal. Is this racist now? Like, I don't know what is and what isn't, but what accent that I really want to learn is Jamaican. I fucking love that accent.
I want to be able to do a good Asian accent. I want to be able to do a good Chinese accent, like the Chinese kids. American-born Chinese kids do hilarious imitations of their parents.
Oh my God, I would love to see that.
They're hilarious. The few of the Chinese kids who are extroverted enough and effy and inny enough to do it. You know, in general, the kids are, I would say, they're raised in a more clearly defined environment as to who they're supposed to be. You know, and like so, and like Chinese culture, it has ways to accommodate for variation within the group without excluding them. It's very inclusive, but it's also very much like you are not an individual. You're always, you have a role in the group, and you have to You have to name the trait argument. What's that? I don't know what name the trait is. Oh, ask yourself came up with the name the trait argument. I don't know what the name the trait argument is.
Oh, good is a name in a village in the Netherlands. Is it really men like gods?
Well, men like gods, let me tell you something. A village is not a dwelling. A village is not a dwelling. Neufchâtel does sound like a house in France, and it's a cheese. Skyscraper, not a cheese, but a building. This is, if you want to start a sentence that I'm sure to dislike, you should read is a sentence that I'm sure not to like. Don't tell me I should read something, okay? If you are concerned that there's some key argument that I'm lacking in and do not understand, and that is negatively impacting my clarity regarding policy, politics, and the world paradigm in general, then inform me of it. Don't try to tell me I'm going to be convinced like you were by this other person and their single frame of reference and their agenda-driven book. I won't be. I'll critique it in the same way I'm critiquing you right now, which is it's bad to be at that level of discourse. It's the most destructive level of discourse. You don't have 7 years to inform me? About what? Interesting book about counterfactual logic. Okay. I mean, I've run Nozick before. I've run across it in debate plenty of times. I don't really remember what the arguments are that people run with them. I could search my Dropbox and see what kind of cards they're cut from. Let's see. Let's see what kind of cards they got cut from Nozick.
Yeah.
N-O-Z-I-C-K. N-O-Z-I-C-K. Here's a Nozick Rights card that I cut. This is a card I cut from Nozick. Contention 1. While it's virtuous to take animal well-being into account, they do not have rights. Nozick 1. Let us label this position utilitarianism for animals, Kantianism for people. It says, 1. Maximize the total happiness of all living beings. 2. Place stringent side constraints on what one may do to human beings. Human beings may not be used or sacrificed for the benefit of others. Animals may be used or sacrificed for the benefit of other people or animals. None may be sacrificed except for a greater total benefit, but persons must not be sacrificed at all. So that's a Nozick card. That's one of the Nozick cards I've cut. See, I tend to use things like that, right? I don't necessarily. I mean, this should be interesting. It's oh, it doesn't. Oh, it does. So this is a 197-page document on anti-libertarianism arguments. It's just all anti-lib stuff. Let me download it. I'll share it with you guys. It's funny. Libertarianism ATs. It's a bunch of bullshit. Let's see what else I got from Nozick. I've got the PDF of Anarchy, State, and Utopia.
There you go.
Which I probably cut from before, but it's actually not cuttable from in this format. I've also got Nozick's in the values A to Z folder as well.
Wow, look at you.
Mill's Racial Liberalism PDF. What is this about? This talks about Nozick's some as well, I guess. Oh, anyway. I'm going to upload this libertarianism ATs just for everyone's kicks. If you're a libertarian-minded individual, I am not going to deny that I emerged into my meta-rationalism from a libertarian origin spot. So I'm sympathetic to your cause, but my fundamental point subsumes your cause, which is that no agenda, no single frame of reference can be totalizing without becoming totalitarian. And libertarianism's key mistake is to assume itself to be excluded from that rule. So I will not be totalizing any sort of agenda or ideology, including libertarianism. And that's because the correct thing to do is to not totalize any agenda or ideology. Do you dig what I'm saying? Do you hear my words? Can you hear my thinking? Are they nothing but turds? It didn't come out very good. I don't know what's going on with the formatting here. Let me see if I can fix the formatting. Clear formatting. Just try to clear format and see what happens. Well, that's not much better. Okay, well, I don't know. Once again, I've got a document here that, for whatever reason, oh, I see. It's like, it's got the, look at this. This is what it is. It's the indent.
Oh.
So I just move this over here, maybe. Is that going to work?
Yeah.
Okay, I fixed it. Good.
Nice job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Get link. Anyone with the link. Copy link. Okay, here's this document on libertarian ATs. If you would like a copy of the book that is being referenced here, namely Anarchy, State, and Utopia, I've got it as both a PDF and a TXT file. I'll get this PDF. Download. Now I gotta go back over here to the Google Docs and I have to go this and then open, upload, push the POW in the POW, and move the POW to the POW. And voila. Et voila.
French even.
Et voila. El PDF for Anarchy, State, and Utopia. Here you go, guys. Here you go. You asked for it, you got it. Rawls publicly admitted that Nozick destroyed Rawls' theory of justice with the Will Chamberlain premise. Well, I mean, who still ascribes to Rawls' veil of ignorance? Did anybody ever ascribe to it as the end all and be all of moral reasoning? I don't think so. I mean, people still use it in debate. People still use veil of ignorance in debate sometimes, but it's I don't think even Rawls was. Well, maybe he was claiming originally that was that was a good way to determine justice, but like, are there still Rawlsians out there? It's like saying, I don't know if you're aware of this, Eric, but the idea of spontaneous generation of maggots from meat was destroyed in 1892 by man. Okay, so Rawls got destroyed. Rawls is not my email. Yeah, my email's in my description. Because my name backwards is ssuartscire, Eric Strauss backwards @gmail.com. I'll type it here so you can see it. ssuartscire @gmail.com. Well, I mean, look, the thing is, forget about right and left. You've got people who are trying to argue by winning arguments and people who are trying to argue by not having arguments. If I'm dealing with people who are trying to argue by winning arguments, fine. They can lose their arguments, Go ahead and lose their arguments to me. And eventually they'll come around. The problem I have are people who don't want to have any arguments, right? Like, most of our politics is not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about most of what our politics is not about what's right and what's wrong. It's about who's right and who's wrong, and it shouldn't be. We need to get rid of the blame part.
Yeah.
So we stop talking about what the left does, what the right does, or what the stop that shit. Yeah, it's because Eric Strauss @gmail.com was already taken. So I went backwards. I'm smart like that. I'm clever like that.
You are clever like that.
Well, I didn't want to be Eric Strauss 2,
Ew.
No.
No offense.
It wants to be the number 2 Eric Strauss.
Yeah.
I'd rather be the number 1 ssuartscire.
Yeah.
I mean, look, here's the thing, Scott Steiner. As a debate coach, I'm a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of what arguments are playing and how they're playing and where they're playing. So a lot of hard leftist argumentation is still winning at the college level, where the judging is so left that it influences the debate too much. But it's not winning at the high school level anymore. So in other words, there was a few years back, maybe 10 years back, where identity politics was winning consistently at the high school level. It's not anymore. So you can really have a good sense of where the society's argumentation is going in about 10 years from looking at debate. And it's interesting because the most sophisticated debate occurs at high school level, and college debate is less sophisticated. The reason for this is because college debate politicizes it, whereas high school debate game theories it. In other words, in high school debate, all arguments are basically perceived as neutral until they're substantiated more or less well by one side or the other,
Yeah.
Whereas in college debate, their arguments are weighted politically going into the round, so that the notion of a common good that's politically neutral is no longer a predominant frame, which is why high school debate actually leads the world in ideation, because it's not the debaters, it's the high school debate coaches lead the world in ideation. They're the ones competing against each other, Fucking coach whatever's always running these bullshit race shit. We're gonna slam that shit this tournament. I've been the coach who said that stuff before, so
I can picture it.
okay, so Scott Steiner says taxation is theft. Nobody has the right to buy goods or production. Okay, well, taxation's not theft because, for example, there's a constitutional amendment that permits the government, the federal government, to collect income tax. That makes it legal and therefore not theft. But it is the case that we need to revisit our understanding of taxation in general and remember what taxation is and how it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to be doing and such. In other words, we have turned in large part the league over to the officials. It's like the referees in basketball took over basketball and said, okay, we're going to spend all of our time coming up with more rules and more fouls and more, and we're going to require us to get more and more of the total revenue from this sport that's being broadcast. Now, of course, the players are the thing that people watch, and the coaches are the things that makes the team successful or not. Whether or not a team's successful depends on how much it's going to be watched. And so the referees are just there to make sure that it functions properly, right? Unfortunately, our current government, it does have a role. It's the referees there to make sure things function properly. It does need to be funded. It does have jobs it needs to do. Taxation has always been the means by which the state, as defined by that which has the monopoly on use of force, has supported itself and done things either that were comprised a good or benevolent form of governance or a bad or malevolent form of governance. Those things are very different. I agree with you, Scott Steiner, that we've drifted a long way from the founder's vision. And to a certain extent, that is in and of itself a problem. But what I'm saying, what's a bigger problem is allowing ourselves to totalize an agenda. Because totalizing agendas is how we get to totalitarianism. It doesn't matter what the agenda is. Well, Scott Steiner, even if you were to envision that as an ideal reality, I'm somebody who's running for president. So I have to take the country as it is and do what I ought to do given the reality that is. And so when I hear somebody talking about that, what I'm hearing is basically a call to perfection. I refuse to engage meaningfully politically until standards that will never be met are met first. And so in that regard, I find it contraindicative to being a good citizen.
Excuse me.
And this is the approach I'm going to use to try to win the presidency, is to talk to people like you and say, look, you may be right. You may have good reason to be outraged, but we're a bunch of adults in an actual situation right now. Let's evaluate what the situation is, where the country is, and how we can move towards a better America. Because I'll tell you how we're not going to do it, by insisting on idyllic realities that we envision that are so distant from the current status quo as to be meaningless in any conversation about the current status quo, while concurrently refusing to engage about the current status quo as a meaningful reality to talk about because the system is broken and we can't do anything anyway. Well, I'm here to say that's bullshit. I'm here to say, those of you who are there in that space discursively about politics, join me beyond that space, where the grown-ups are. That's my message, and it's how I'm going to try to get elected president.
I like that. I think it's good. Sturdy.
I agree with you, David Sanderson. I can see your analysis of argumentation improving the longer you've been around here, and I don't know if it has anything to do with me or not. I'm just saying, over time, I see your understanding of argumentation improving, your analysis of their arguments being more meaningful, meaning more to me. rather than seeming less relevant or something. Should we trust Johnson & Johnson? Only one of them. Only the first one.
The first one?
First Johnson's cool. I don't know if you've ever met Johnson. He's a really cool guy. He's a really cool guy. He invited me over to his house one time. He had hot dogs.
Hot dogs? That's really
he was
nice.
barbecuing. He had a pool party.
Woo, pool party.
The only reason he invited me was because he happened to see me at the store, and we started chatting about football. And he's like, "Hey, you do anything this afternoon?" I was like, "Wow, I can't believe it!" And I was like, "This is cool. I'm with this famous Johnson from Johnson & Johnson." And then the other Johnson showed up.
Same time, same
place?
It
was about 2 hours after I arrived. The other Johnson showed up. He had in tow with him a bruised and bloodied prostitute. No explanation offered. He was clearly drunk out of his mind and high on who knows what.
Wow.
He immediately peed in the pool. I was swimming maybe 5 feet away from where he was peeing until I realized what was happening.
Oh my gosh, this is happening at the party?
Yeah, that's the other Johnson. And the first Johnson is trying to tell the second Johnson to go away. And it's amazing that their shampoo causes no tears because their interaction causes nothing but tears.
That's so sad. I never would have known. They seem like such a pleasant brand.
Horse Mumbler, I agree with you that my critique of whether or not taxation is theft on a purely legal ground is a level 1 critique. And that, of course, that's not the only thing that determines the legitimacy of something. So whether something is legal determines whether it's legal. But whether it ought to be legal is another question. Now, I think that if we understand taxation from the perspective of a group of community, a group of people who, for whatever reason, conclude, let's say in the 1800s, that they want to chip in together to buy a schoolhouse and hire a school teacher to educate their children or something, that's a natural form of taxation that nobody really objects to, right? And so you might say, well, but can't we do that voluntarily? Or shouldn't, blah, 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 blah. Well, for a long time, income taxes were voluntary. I'm not interested particularly in trying to defend taxation as an institution, right? Or to critique it as an institution. Because that's not a meaningful way to engage with the American body politic about the issue of taxation. So, like, in other words, when I become president, there's not going to be option 1, declare taxation crime and eliminate it, right? I'm trying to work in the real world within a political system that I think can still be saved. You might say it's already beyond saving because it's moved so far from the core principles that you think ought to be prioritized and that maybe the founders agreed with you about. But the point I'm trying to make is that's not a useful position to hold. Nobody is advocating we're nowhere close to the conversation topic of the actual legality of taxation. In other words, something is legal if it's accomplished by a due process of law, but also in accordance with natural law. So that's why we have something called a model penal code. The model penal code attempts to address criminality in a way that is as moral as a penal code can be, and as in keeping with sort of our understanding of natural law as can be. However, to think that everything can be reduced to binaries is silly, because we already acknowledge and factor in criminal cases utilitarianism in the sentencing phase. In other words, whether or not somebody commits a crime is a binary matter. They're guilty or innocent. And some things are like that. And that's the kind of thing that Scott Steiner likes. He's a TI user probably for sure. And he would like my badass rights article cut card thing, I'm sure. You know, I can argue your side just fine. I've argued it plenty of times. And I'm not even asking you to agree to a more moderate position. I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong about this point or right about it, okay? But I'm saying you're not talking about politics. You're talking about why you're angry. And I don't find that useful. I find that the opposite of useful. The appointment of a woman to office is an innovation for which the public is not prepared, nor am I. Thomas Jefferson.
Wow.
Just goes to show you. I mean, it's like we can't judge old-timey people by our conventional standards. It's silly to do so. Thomas Jefferson had some brilliant ideas, and that is not befouled by the fact that he was also a slave-owning misogynist. That was his, it's like he was apparently a super nice slave owner, as slave owners go. Yeah.
Well, he impregnated. Like
that's
he
the
basically
nicest thing you can do to a slave.
During that time, yeah. But that's what I mean, like.
What's with the woman hating shit though? I just do not get it. I feel so just.
But you had a past lifetime as a woman.
I happy to have women around me. Like,
that's good.
I like Rachel's womanliness. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it makes me feel comfortable and safe, and sometimes it makes me laugh. Like we're in the line at the pharmacy yesterday, and she's once again fretting about what dress she's going to wear to this wedding. And she's talking about how she's decided it, but fretting about this wedding. And I'm like, Rachel, I cannot believe you are worrying about what you're going to wear to a wedding we haven't been invited to.
I know.
It's like, that's the kind of woman stuff that makes me laugh. It's like women care about crazy shit. Like, can you imagine? We were driving by this place the other night, right? This like lash lengthening thing. And I just thought it was ridiculous, of course. Like somebody would think they're, oh my God, thank God. I made a joke like, thank God, Rachel, there's a lash lengthening place. You know how we've been bothered so much by your eyelashes being too short. And then I realized that she was like quiet, like she's like, I know my eyelashes are short. I'm like, oh my God. You actually have an opinion about your eyelashes.
I do.
It's never safe to make any of those jokes around a woman, because it doesn't matter how ridiculous the idea is. Like when I started my brow joke about Megan Lavoda, I thought I'm going to pick something that nobody actually cares about at all. Nobody can possibly care about. So it's clearly a joke. It's a nice joke. Gosh. I did not know women actually care a lot about their brows. I've noticed since I started making that joke, there are actual shops that say like brows on it. It's like, that's nutty.
Oh my gosh.
That is nutty to care that much about your eyebrows.
That's good that you want to have like women around you too. Like it balances things out.
It does, for sure.
Like I always liked having, like I grew up having a sister, which was nice. So I had my sister and I had my good friends who were female. But then I also had a group of friends that me and my sister would play with, and they were boys. And I was always grateful for that because like I knew how to like, I knew that boys were rough and tumble. Like I didn't take things personally.
Well, I think you helped me to be more grounded in a couple different ways. You actually help me to be more SI, but kind of weirdly indirectly. Like, I don't know, it could just be a coincidence, but since we've been together, my desire to do speed has been going down steadily. Like I feel more in desire and need to do plans and schedules and stuff. And the last couple of days we've been following through on these plans and making progress and stuff. And Rachel and I were talking about what we're doing and stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, Scott Steiner. I am an anti-tax person. Okay, I am definitely an anti-tax person. Okay, horse mumbler, for fuck's sake. Maybe he wasn't a misogynist. Maybe that's too bold of a term to use. An anti-suffragist. Oh my gosh. Okay? My bad.
All have to be careful
I'll refer to him as an anti-suffragette instead. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Crazy. What year were you born, horse mumbler? I'm just asking you because I'm curious about
your
generations.
Chinese zodiac type. Oh.
Yeah. What?
I thought you were going to say you were curious about his Chinese zodiac type.
Oh, well, that too, actually. What year were you born? Winston's mom. Okay. I'm doing most of my shopping on Shein. It's online. I have a dress already. It's the dress that I wore on my birthday, which is a baby doll black dress with like flowered embroidery. It's really cute. I already asked my mom and my sister if it's appropriate. I fucking haven't even been invited yet, yo.
So she's worried that we're not going to be invited because if they go small wedding, we I would hardly say that calling Thomas Jefferson a misogynist instead of an anti-suffragette qualifies as using words irresponsibly. Okay?
Yes.
It may qualify as a diction mistake, but I hardly think it qualifies as using words irresponsibly. No. You were born in 92. Wow, you're 20 years younger than me.
92. So then you're Gen Z. I don't mean to. It just sound. I like to gather data on generations. It's super interesting.
You totally know, Stephanie Lou, that
92.
That Nietzsche was not getting any action. Nietzsche was not getting any action.
Definitely wasn't.
There's no way he was getting ready to be that fucking pissy about it.
Yeah. I'm 90.
No, I know he was a closet. I understand Thomas Jefferson's situation. He actually genuinely wanted to free his slaves, was a closet abolitionist, and was also an NTP.
Oh, you're a young millennial.
He was also an NTP who wasn't very good with his finances and stuff, and so wasn't really financially able to do that.
Genuine millennial. You know? So, like, when does millennials start? Because I believe I'm an early millennial. I just find that Gen Z's humor is different than millennials. That's all. I've come to, in my studying,
Gen Z's are more woke.
Yeah, they're more like, they're definitely more woke. They want PC.
But the thing is, what people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize this, is the last 3 years, I have won Earth's most woke person.
82 to 96.
3 years in a row. 2019, 2020, and I've already won it now in 2021. Earth's most woke person.
You are, though. See, I honestly think that Gen X is most woke.
I'm the most
Gen
woke.
X is most woke. Gen X is most woke.
I'm wokest.
Seriously, wokest.
I'm wokester than the most wokesty of wokesters.
So then 85, I'm like,
You're no man's land.
like, yeah, I am pretty much no man's land. But I'm in no man's land, but they say that like no man's landers have the best taste in music.
Horse Mumbler says you're a millennial.
Yeah, I am millennial. Thank you, Horse Mumbler. So like I'm not even early millennial. I'm just millennial. How boring. Gen X is the most he's the only Gen Xer I know. I don't know any other Gen Xers. Yeah.
Gen
Oh
X,
yeah.